Hi, welcome. This is Redneck. So I was just sitting here, listening to the radio, watching my still heat up, and I got to thinking that after being in this hobby for a year now, what would I recommend to new distillers, to people just starting out in this hobby? And I came up with three basic concepts, three topics of discussion that I would recommend to anyone starting into this hobby. The very first is the KISS principle. Not that kiss.
Oh. That is what I'm talking about.
Not that kiss, but this kiss. Keep it simple. Do not start this hobby thinking that you have to start out doing this real complicated all-grain mash bill. If your only real experience to distillation is watching YouTube, for example, you're going to see these guys and these girls doing a lot of really complicated mash bills with a lot of grains, a lot of other ingredients, a lot of funny ingredients, a lot of weird ingredients, things that you don't really need to worry about now. Starting out, you need to keep it simple. Stick to your basics, learn the basics, and then advance from there. One of the easiest way to learn the basics is to start with a sugar wash. Now, you're typically going to do a sugar wash for a cleaning run on your still anyway. Most people do, or a lot of people do. But that doesn't mean that you only have to do one. You can do multiples. You can, after your first one, you can run sugar wash again and keep the alcohol from it. Sugar wash actually produces a very drinkable alcohol, especially if you're into mixed drinks. If you're making a mixed drink with the alcohol from a sugar wash and the expensive alcohol from the store, you're not going to know much of a difference between the two. There may be a subtle difference, but yeah, if you're into making something like the apple pie moonshine, sugar wash will make just as good an apple pie as anything else out there. It makes a drinkable liquor. I drink it neat myself, but yeah, you can use it for mixed drinks or whatever you want, but it does produce alcohol, it makes a liquor, and it is drinkable. You need to do something simple. Just remember to keep it simple and do something that is repeatable. You want to be able to repeat this process over and over and over again. And that's something that you can learn with a sugar wash, is a repeatable process. You can learn and practice doing the same thing over again. And once you're ready to move up from a sugar wash, there's another really simple recipe out there. It's called the Uncle Jesse's Simple Sour Mash, UJSSM. You can Google that and get the recipe if you want. It's 7 pounds of cracked corn, 7 pounds of sugar, 5 gallons of water. It is a little more complicated than a sugar wash because you're going to be steeping the grains. You are using the grains, but you're not cooking the grains, which makes it really simple. Once you get into cooking the grains and actually extracting the sugars, you start getting into a lot more complicated mash bill. There's a lot more complicated process involved in doing that. Starting out, don't worry about doing that just yet. Learn the basics, learn the process, and then look to making yourself better at doing this. Look to getting better at doing this. Once you learn the basics and once you're ready for that next step, you can always add on to what you've done or try a different recipe altogether. Second thing I'd recommend is do not overthink this process. Making liquor is really simple. It's not that hard at all. We know from written history that they've been making whiskey since 1405, and we know that it's been around longer than that. Just the first written history is 1405. And if they can make whiskey in 1405, you can make whiskey now. It's really not that hard to do. And do not overthink this. It's really easy to get in this mindset of, I can't start doing it until I have this. And then when you get that, ooh, someone else has got something else that you need, so I need to get that before I can start. You really need to start with something basic. Start with some basic equipment. You can start with a cheap still if you want. You can buy a still on Amazon for $100, $200, something like that. The expensive stills and the cheap stills, they all make liquor. Buy the still that you can afford. Make a still if you have the skills. I myself have not made a still because I don't feel comfortable that I have the skills to actually do that. There's a quote by a moonshiner from South Carolina. His name was Barney Barnwell. And one of Barney's quotes, he was kind of a real extravagant character, but one of his quotes was, "We're just trying to make something here to get drunk on. We're not trying to make a Rembrandt." No truer words could be spoken. When you're just starting out, don't shoot for the Rembrandt. Just shoot for something that you can drink. Shoot for a drinkable liquor. You can always strive to improve, and you should be striving to improve. You should be striving to get better at what you're doing, get better at your craft, get better at this hobby. But to start out, you've got to learn somewhere. You've got to start somewhere. And if you get into this mindset that you've got to have all this stuff before you can even start, you may never even start. Find a place that you can actually get your foot in the door, that you can start doing this, that you can start learning and experiencing what it is like to make liquor, and then get better from there. And the third recommendation that I would make to all new distillers is to always remember distilling should be fun. This is a hobby. You're not doing this to make money. You're not doing this to feed your family. You're doing this as a hobby. And hobbies are supposed to be fun. Do not make this into work. And that does not go to say that there's not a lot of work involved in distilling. There is. There is a lot of work involved in making liquor. But it's fun work. It's fun to do. It's fun to watch the process. It's fun to watch it go from grains and sugar and water to a beer, basically, that you put into a still and you make into liquor. It's fun to watch this whole process, and it's fun to figure out what's going on in this process. This should not be something that stresses you out. It should not be something that you dread doing. This is a hobby. Keep it as a hobby. Keep in your mindset that this is a hobby. If you don't feel like doing it today, do it tomorrow. Just like any other hobby. You don't have to do this. You're not getting up to clock in at work. You're getting up and doing this to have fun. Keep it fun. And those three topics will be my three recommendations for new distillers. Keep it simple. Don't overthink this process. And keep it fun.